We need to move now!
Wanna survive?
What up, what up? Yo, this is Sweet Tooth Eddy, and you're listening to Sweet Tooth Radio. Today we're going to be talking about the Junkwoods. If you haven't read the first chapter, go check it out, www.junkwoods.com. It's free to read, mature audiences, 75 pages, horror, action, survival. If you like what you read, go check it out on Kickstarter as well. The entire survival of the series relies on all of you supporting, sharing, talking about it, and supporting on that Kickstarter where you can get some cool rewards. So today we'll be talking about the cover, the process of me making the cover. As you can see, I went through a different couple of concepts and played with that. And you might learn a thing or two, you might not. This isn't a tutorial, but I hope you enjoy the process nonetheless. Let's get into it. Anyway, all that being said, I am a professional yapper, so we're going to get right into this, and I'm going to talk about the process. As you saw in the first couple clips, I actually went through a couple different concepts, trying to figure out how I wanted to lay things out. This is not the official cover, but it might end up being the cover for the volume. If we get the first volume, we'll see. But I was playing around with some things, trying to get some things laid out, see what I like. I like to sometimes splash color on there to kind of make the figures stand out to me and kind of get a grasp on the shapes. I finally went with this. I like how this looks. It looks pretty good. The layout looks good. It has all the main characters. It has a little bit of that finesse to it, I guess we could say. You can see the monster in the back. And before, when I was actually working on this, it was called Concrete Forest. Now it's called the Junkwoods. We went through a rebranding, went through a renaming. I think the Junkwoods just feels a little bit better. Concrete Forest is still pretty cool, but I'm pretty happy with the end result of Junkwoods. And we got that name pretty easily, because that word doesn't even exist anywhere. So, getting into it now, we're starting to detail a little bit. This is the fun part, of course. Every artist loves to detail, but a lot of artists sometimes have a bad habit of detailing before they even have a composition finished. But, you know, that's just how it goes. That's the fun thing about art. You can do it however you want to do it. How I do it, I like composition first. Sometimes we just get straight to detailing. Depends on how much time I have. So, again, this was started 2023, I think I was messing around with this. I was playing around, the designs weren't final. I was playing with characters, trying to get a feel for them at the same time as making the cover, which would not recommend. Definitely recommend doing character sheets, trying to figure that all out, which I did later. I just didn't have time. When you're limited on time, you have to decide what's more important and try to get that at least started. That way, when I did change these designs later, I could come back and make some pretty quick and easy adjustments. One thing that you need to be aware of and think of whenever you're putting together a cover isn't just, is the art good, does it look cool, but how it reads from a distance. Does it catch your eye? Can you take a step back and it still looks good? Do the subjects read well? So for instance, we have Valentino in the corner. He's really big. It gives you the idea like, oh, that's the main character, the narrator, whatever you want to see them as. And they're important to the plot. And then you have these two characters who are full body, so obviously they're also main characters, or at least substantial characters that have a very big influence on the story. And then of course we have like some small Easter eggs and details, such as the monster hidden behind, things like that. Here I'm just playing around, like I said, trying to get some designs laid out. I still hadn't had final designs for these characters, so I was just playing with it as I went. Valentino went through so many stages. At one point he was bald, at another point he had short hair, at one point he was really young, at another point he was really old. I finally settled on this look after about 21 revisions. I think some of them are out there in the wild, or on the YouTube channel. I don't really remember where they're posted. But definitely take your time with characters if you have the time anyway. But make sure your characters are exactly what you want them to be, and don't just draw them only. Write them and draw them at the same time. It helps you develop both. So when writing Valentino, I had to take some time to figure that out. As I was drawing him, I started realizing what kind of character he felt right being. And I always try to make my characters have different shapes, colors, patterns, and just different feel. So here we get into inking. My inking's pretty basic. There's nothing too fancy about it. I don't have this amazing rare style that nobody's ever seen before on inking, like Gotcha Kuta or all these other amazing ass comics and things like that. But I do take a little bit of pride in my inking being quick and still retaining quality. I think overall the inking for this took quite a bit. I think it was about 2.5 hours, 2 hours. I can look back later, or I can put the timestamp later, I'm not sure. One thing when you're inking that's a little useful tip is, of course, the outline should be a little bit thicker. I tend to make all my stuff somewhat the same line width, but I play around with it. Sometimes I don't even use inking. Sometimes I use just a pencil tool and ink with that on monochrome, and it comes out pretty cool. Little secret, little trade secret. That's just how I get some of my textures in my inking. Anyway, you can see here I just followed through with a lot of my inking, getting all that done. I still have a lot of things to learn when it comes to artwork, but it's about time. I just wanted to get this project underway. Something that I would give, or a bit of advice I would give a lot of other artists is, while it's important to get good at artwork, you also want to just start. If you haven't started, get started. If you haven't started writing, get started writing. You're not going to get better by waiting until you're good enough. You're going to get better by putting it into practice. So make one-shots, make stories, write short stories, attempt all of these things, and put the work and the practice in. So that way, whenever it comes time, you're comfortable, you've already done a lot, and you'll be able to put these projects together. It's a different kind of industry than it used to be, and there's a lot of different ways you can approach things. You can go the published route, you can go the indie route, you can go the collective route. There's all sorts of angles. You can even go for big name, small name. You can just do it for fun, you can do it for money. It's endless. It's a Wild West, and it's really fun because it's a Wild West. There's so much freedom to do it exactly how you want to do it. There are risks and pros and cons of it both. I'm not here to give my opinion. My opinion doesn't really matter. You guys are here to see some artwork and how this was made. That said, we're getting into flat coloring. I'm throwing on some base colors. I played with some really quick lighting to kind of get a vibe. When it comes to flat coloring, you definitely want to take your time trying to pick your color selection, because color selection is so important for a cover. Everything else is black and white. Who cares? I don't give a damn. From here on out, I pretty much get these colors laid out quickly. I, of course, go back and change a lot. Red, blue, green, yellow, the primaries and popular colors are obviously going to be something that you want to use a lot, depending on what style of comic you're doing. Mine is a horror, action, survival, so of course my colors are going to be a bit more toned down, but I did want them to have a little bit of pop, since it's a cover. But series like Berserk or Vinland Saga or some of these others, you don't really need a lot of color. I mean, most of your audience isn't looking for something that's going to pop out at them. They're looking for a good story, and that's what's more important. Now with this, I actually went about this and tried 2 different coloring styles. I use multiply layers, and then I just draw over it with a darker shade. And I went with a painting style first, and I was like, oh, let's see if I can make it look like the markers or painterly, and it just... I finished it, I didn't like it, and as you'll see here in a little bit, I put in all that work and just erased all of it. And sometimes that happens, and as an artist, you need to be ready to make changes, to adjust, especially if you're working with companies or doing other kinds of business, or working with a client, taking commissions. You need to be able to just accept that things aren't going to work, and you're going to have to revise them. I would definitely advise most artists to get used to revising and fixing things, because that's going to happen a lot. So here I start outlining, trying to make things really pop, trying to finalize stuff. I play with some different fonts. I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel right. This was before I had Junkwoods, of course. It was still pretty cool, but I just wasn't right. So I went through, I made some adjustments. I played with the Clip Studio lighting thing, and it was actually kind of cool. It made like a really weird tone that I liked, like the color that it used to add the multiply to it. It was pretty nice. So I went through that, and I started adding orange highlights to it. Oh, hey, kitty. Oh my. Yeah. I have a little kitty. She just popped in to say hey. She told you guys to go check out Junkwoods on junkwoods.com, you know. But yeah, here I'm just adding highlights, playing around with some things, finalizing some colors. As you'll see in the final image, I actually changed a lot of the designs or colors, added some small things. The monster got changed, the logo got changed. And that's just all stuff that happened in post-processing, which happened after a couple months. I hope you guys enjoy the cover. I hope you guys enjoy me adding some vocals to this. And you can expect Sweet Tooth Radio to pop on, and we'll be doing this every time I post a video from now on. If you haven't already, go check out the first chapter, 75 pages, horror action, mature audiences. But you can check that out for free on junkwoods.com, and you can find the link to the Kickstarter below, and you can find that on the website as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys will check out Junkwoods on YouTube. You can find some scary videos in the trailer. And I'll see you guys next time on Sweet Tooth Radio.